What is going on, everybody? It is me again. It's Horror Fan 34, and welcome to another video. And welcome to another review for the 31 Days of Horror Challenge in October. We are on day 13 of the challenge. And I figured I'd go back. I still stick. Actually, I think the same year as Pumpkinhead, because I think Pumpkinhead was 88, and this was also 88 as well. And I figured I would stick with that year, actually, stick with the 80s, and talk about a classic one. Which, funny enough, actually, me and my friends Rob and Alex on the Movie Busters did a show, all three of us just by ourselves together, covering all of these films. And I figured for the month of October, I figured I would talk about one of these movies. And I figured I'm surprised enough I never reviewed this one for any of the horror challenges yet. And I figured this would be a good one to talk about. And of course, that review is going to be on Child's Play. You'll wish it was only make believe. Of course, this is the original poster for the movie. It says, "Something's moved in with the Barkley family, and so has terror." Always loved that cover. Always thought that was a great cover. But I really like the new artwork on here as well. But yeah, Child's Play came out in 1988, directed by Tom Holland. Now, Tom Holland, this is a director that's worked on a few other films. He did the original Fright Night before this film, which I love. And he did a couple Stephen King things. He did Thinner, which is pretty decent. And he also did The Langoliers, which is a very solid miniseries for Stephen King up until the very ending with the Langolier monsters themselves. Very shitty special effects on the monsters. But other than that, I like everything else about The Langoliers. But now this one, Child's Play. I think this is personally his best film that he's directed, Tom Holland. Now, of course, the cast, first off, you have Catherine Hicks, Chris Sarandon, who was in the original Fright Night, and Alex Vincent. Of course, Brad Dourif as the voice of Chucky. And the story of this, so I mean, if anybody hasn't seen Child's Play, you're definitely missing out. But for people who don't know what the story of Child's Play is, basically it opens with this serial killer, Charles Lee Ray, played by Brad Dourif, who's on the run from the cops, and he runs into this toy store, and there's a bunch of these good guy dolls, and Brad Dourif's character, Charles Lee Ray, gets shot by the cops and he's dying, so he transports his body into a good guy doll, puts this curse on a good guy doll, and transports his soul into the good guy doll. And then it's sometime later, and then of course you have the Barkley family, you know, Andy, the little kid, and his mom, played by Catherine Hicks. And Catherine Hicks buys her son, Alex Vincent's character of Andy, the good guy doll for his birthday, and that turns out to be the one that was possessed by Charles Lee Ray. And then the doll, you know, starts to kill people when people suspect that it might be the kid doing it, and he's making it up that Chucky's alive. And of course you have the detective on the case, Detective Norris, played by Chris Sarandon. And that's pretty much the entire premise of the film. Now, first off, this is without a doubt one of my favorite horror films from the 80s. I love this movie. First off, the cast works really well. Really like Catherine Hicks as the mom, Alex Vincent as Andy. I also, Chris Sarandon as the detective, and Brad Dourif, without a doubt, steals the show in this as Charles Lee Ray, Chucky. And for people, Brad Dourif, like, it's amazing, like, Brad Dourif, like, whenever people think of Brad Dourif, they always think of him from Chucky, which is understandable because it's probably his most famous role that he's ever did. But you look at Brad Dourif, the man's been in a ton of stuff over his career. I mean, look at what he did over his career. Fatal Beauty with Whoopi Goldberg, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Exorcist 3, Graveyard Shift, and I think he was in Senseless as well with David Spade and Marlon Wayans. I'm pretty sure he was in that. I'm very sure. So Brad Dourif has done a lot of other stuff in his career other than the Chucky movies. And I think Brad Dourif was the perfect voice for Chucky. And it was really cool to see, Brad Dourif not just as the voice, but also in person as Charles Lee Ray as the killer. It's got some nice humorous moments, especially like I will admit, like it's always funny when Chucky, as the Charles Lee Ray voice comes alive. When Catherine Hicks threatens to throw him in the fireplace, he's like, "You stupid bitch, you cunt," and all that stuff. I gotta admit that was pretty damn funny. One of the scenes that gives me the cringes, that just I cringe at the most, but it's so well done, is when Chucky confronts the voodoo guy and he has a replica of a doll of the guy, and he's breaking his legs, and you see the guy's legs snap and his arm, and you can hear the bone crack, and it just makes me cringe every single time just seeing that. But it's really, really well done. I mean, really well done effects. David Kirshner, who did the design of Chucky, I would say Child's Play 2 is my personal favorite when it comes to Chucky's design, because I really like the design of Chucky in Part 2, but I also really like the design of Chucky in the first one. And I think David Kirshner did a good job on the on the design. Once again, the story by Don Mancini. This is the same guy that would later direct the later Chucky movies like Curse and Cult, Seed of Chucky, piece of shit movie, but I digress. I thought it was really well directed as well by Tom Holland. Like I said, if I had to do like my favorite Tom Holland film, and I think Tom Holland also directed Fatal Beauty with Whoopi Goldberg, and Brad Dourif was in that, so makes a lot of sense. Tom Holland working with Brad Dourif again on Fatal Beauty. So they obviously like working together, so they worked on a couple things together. And the screenplay is very well done too by Don Mancini and John LaFia, who sadly passed away from a suicide. John LaFia would later direct the second film, which is actually my personal favorite. I love Child's Play 2. And of course the whole ending between Chucky and Andy, this is the end, friend, and just lights Chucky on fire in the fireplace. And really well done designs by Kevin Yeager, which I think Kevin Yeager went on to work on Sleepy Hollow, I believe, for the effects on Sleepy Hollow. I'm pretty sure that's the same guy. He did a really good job on the effects. It's got some nice gory bits in there. Love the whole scene where the babysitter gets pushed out the window, and the way it's cut together is so well done. Love the POV shots of Chucky running around in the first-person view. Kind of reminded me like if Michael Myers was a doll, because you see all the POV shots of Michael Myers. And I like the Chucky POVs in this one. Sort of like a take on Maniac, like the whole POV shots of first-person view of the killer. And that whole scene when Catherine Hicks finds the batteries in the box, and that musical score in that scene is so well done. The overall musical score is really well done by Joe Renzetti. I think he did a good job on the musical score. I mean, but what more can you say about the original Child's Play that hasn't been said before? It's very well directed. It's got a good cast. Such a creepy idea about a killer doll. I mean, what more can I say about Child's Play that hasn't been said before? I mean, what more could I say? But that's pretty much it for my review for Child's Play. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.